I've put this video together because tenants are continuing to approach us about changes in their financial circumstances. And this video is put together in the middle of June 2020. And when a tenant approaches us about their personal circumstances, maybe they've been furloughed, lost their job, and things like that, we will go back to them and say to them, look, at Chapman's, we're all about helping you help yourself. So we go back to the tenant and say, right, if you're looking for some kind of support, rental reduction or support from your landlord, you need to help us, help them really understand this request. So we go back to them and say, right, what are you doing to help you prioritise your rent? So have you looked at things like reducing your outgoings? Have you reduced your mobile phone bills? Have you looked at reducing the cost of your energy suppliers? What are you doing to help you prioritise your rent? Because when we approach a landlord about a rent reduction, we want to show to the landlord that this tenant is in genuine need and they are genuinely committed to continue paying the rent and looking after that property. Obviously, the situation we've been in has been unprecedented, and this word has been really overused of late. But I think it's important to really consider this request for potentially reducing rent for a period of time. Now, you don't have to say, right, well, you can have a rent reduction for 6 months. It could be that you reduce the rent for just a month and then review it. What we've been doing at Chapman's is we've been putting together very bespoke reductions based on specific tenant circumstances and specific landlord circumstances. Roughly 20% of our tenants have come back to us with some kind of issue. And in those situations, I think the longest rent reduction we've given is for 8 months, but that was a very bespoke situation. The shortest one has been for about 1 month. Generally, on average, the rent reduction has been between 10 and 20%, often to match furlough. If a tenant has been furloughed, though, we would say to a tenant, look, the whole spirit of the furloughing was so that there wasn't any knock-on effect for everybody else in the wider economy. So the idea we are saying to tenants is that the 80% furlough should allow you to prioritise all your essential obligations. So you're obviously not going out right now. Your gym membership should have been cancelled. You're not, socialising and things like that. So the reality is we are pushing back with a tenant to say, the spirit of furlough is about helping you continue to meet your obligations and not have a knock-on effect in wider society. If we're coming to you though and saying, look, your tenant is in distress and this is the situation and this is what they've done and we recommend you working with them, there will be very clear reasons for that. And obviously as an agency we take our fees as a percentage of the rent, so we don't want rents to go down, but for us it's really important about working with both sides to have the best outcome and the best long-term outcome. And some of the reasons why we might suggest agreeing to a level of rent reduction for a period of time are as follows. One is a let property with a known tenant is incredibly valuable. If you have a tenant living in your property paying rent, even if it's not the full rent, they are still meeting the obligations of the council tax, the gas, the utilities. You don't have concerns about empty property insurance issues, but also, visiting that property while it's empty. Obviously, from Chapman's point of view, if your tenant moves out, we would remarket that property, and we have successfully remarketed properties using virtual viewings, video tours, and things like that. But that's going to cost you your new marketing costs, your new credit and reference checks, your new inventory costs, and any new tenant might want something new or some decoration or some modification. So although it might be in our best interest for your tenants to move out, we will often say to you, no, actually it's in your best interest to try and retain this tenant that you've got. We know our tenants, we know you are landlords, and we know our properties really well. And when we're coming back with a recommendation, it's with lots of different factors in mind. If your tenant does move out, we have then an unknown length of void that we're approaching. So we don't know how long that property is going to be empty for. Now, we've had really good success in reletting properties. And as we move out into the next phases of easing of restrictions, there may be more pent-up demand for tenants wanting to move. It may be easier for us to move tenants into properties. But there's no, gone are the days where we could, pretty much guarantee you that we'd have a property relet with only a 4-day empty period. So that's something you need to think about. Equally, although we are remarketing properties at the pre-COVID market rental valuations, there may be the situation that you have to accept a slightly reduced rent for your new tenancy. Because if you think about it, we have now got less people moving. We have got more properties on the rental market because there's been a whole swathe in Edinburgh of short-term let properties being moved into the long let arena. And they are offering things like broadband being included in the let and additional benefits associated with that let. So your property will be competing with more properties than it's ever competed with before. With more increased packages for those properties. So there is a wider pool for tenants to choose from. Equally, there are fewer tenants looking to move, either because they don't meet the criteria for allowing them to move during lockdown. Equally, they may not want to move in with a new flatmate that they don't know very well, especially if it's a joint tenancy, because, working with the coronavirus, do you want to be sharing with somebody who perhaps has a high risk job, say working in a hospital? Do you want to be sharing your space with those people? And equally, those people who are looking to move, why are they looking to move? Are they downsizing their property because their job is at risk and they're trying to reduce their outgoings? Are those tenants who are looking for those properties at a higher credit risk for us? Now, we reference our tenants incredibly carefully, and we have been absolutely delighted that we have no unauthorised rent arrears across the portfolio. But these are things that we need to consider, is that there is probably more properties available for tenants to choose from. There is a smaller pool of tenants looking at the moment, and equally of those tenants, there are fewer quality premium tenants to choose from ourselves. So, there will be certain industries that those tenants are going to find it difficult to find properties unless they have good guarantors. We want, NHS workers, public sector workers, we want the bank workers, people who have jobs that they can work from home, or they have really good furloughing guarantees. So more properties, fewer quality tenants to choose from. The other thing as well is to bear in mind is if we're coming to you to talk about offering your tenant some level of rent reduction, we are often asking you to consider offering a genuine reduction, i.e. the situation where the tenant is not building up arrears. Because once a tenant is in arrears, it's very hard to climb out of that. You'll know yourself, once you're in debt, the debt spiral can be very rapid and very painful. And so again, we can often say negotiate with the tenant slightly less of a reduction that they were hoping for, but with the bargaining tool of saying, look, we are not going to chase you for these arrears. This is a genuine reduction for this 1 month, 2 months, 3 month period. And we are very happy to keep negotiating on your behalf. We are working much harder to creep forward or stand still at the moment. But we are here for our landlords and we are here for our tenants, and that is what it's about. We are always giving you the best advice for what is right for you, your property and your tenant. The other thing to bear in mind though as well is we need to keep relationships really good. The new coronavirus Scotland bill that was passed and received royal assent last month, which went through very, very quickly, has changed how we deal with private residential tenancies. Now, the new restrictions we're working with are going to be in place until at least September, but it could be extended further, and it's highly likely. All evictions now are discretionary. So before, there were evictions that would be mandatory. They are now all discretionary. Equally, you can't go to the tribunal because the tribunal is shut right now. They were hoping to reopen in May. That has now been extended to July, but we still have no cast iron guarantee that we will be able to take any cases to the tribunal then. And equally, there's going to be a big backlog. So the tribunal's not sitting. Equally, if we were to go to a tribunal to ask for an eviction notice for a tenant who is not paying their rent or has built up arrears, the tribunal have stated they are going to take a very dim view of those landlords who have not worked hard to help those tenants. They obviously will understand your own personal circumstances, but equally they are there to check to see if we have done everything we can to assist any tenants who have been adversely affected by the coronavirus bill. Now, as you'll see from our website, we've got a new webpage dedicated to support to help you as landlords, but they would probably expect you to have looked at things like mortgage payment holidays, which I know controversial, but there's also a new loan scheme available to landlords as well. Please don't shoot the messenger. It's not our fault about what level of support there is there for landlords. We're just giving you the information so that you are aware of the situation. We do everything we can to reduce that risk to you, but it's something that you need to be aware of. We look at what the worst case situation could be and try and work out the best case scenario for you. So our advice to you when we're giving you your personalised advice is to take that advice with this video and information as a backdrop. Now, as an agency, we are absolutely delighted that we have no unauthorised arrears across our portfolio. And we have generated the most amazing amount of goodwill between our tenants and our landlords. And I've been so grateful for all the support everybody has given. I am cautiously optimistic that we're coming out of some of the worst of this. However, I don't think we're through the woods. I genuinely feel there's going to be a second spike. I'm not a crystal ball gazer. But equally, we have no clarity on when schools are returning. So some of these people who've been furloughed, some of your tenants who've been furloughed, who've got children, how are they going to get back into the workplace when we don't know exactly how schools are going to be going back and at what level? The level of furlough support from the government, which has been invaluable, is obviously shrinking and becoming more restricted. And the other litmus test for us is not just schools, but also universities. Now, we don't have a huge number of large HMO properties, but we do have a good active number of student tenants who are looking for premium properties. We don't know when those universities are going to go back. So again, this could be a knock-on effect in a couple of months' time as well for some properties. So I am cautiously optimistic. Chapman's has worked incredibly well through the whole crisis. We are not taking our foot off the gas right now at all. But I think it's really important now to keep communications going. Hopefully this video has been really helpful. I know it's hard sometimes just reading through lots and lots of information. But if we're sending you this video and if we are positioning a tenant's request for a rent reduction, I'm strongly urging you to consider it because of all the other knock-on implications. We take the pain as well because our income is based on rental values, but there will be a very clear reason as why we're suggesting it. Hope you find this useful and do just get in touch if you have any queries whatsoever. There's no such thing as a stupid question right now, and we do try and give you as many answers as we can in this new uncharted territory. Thank you so much for listening. Goodbye.